The next item on the agenda is 10.10, which is CLK 2021-17, is the municipal election voting methods. The recommendation is that staff report CLK 2021-17 regarding the 2022 municipal election voting methods dated November 8, 2021 be received, and that bylaw number 2021-XX being a bylaw to confirm internet and telephone voting as alternative voting methods for the Township of Adjala-Tosorontio 2022 municipal election be adopted, and the staff be directed to develop the 2022 election work plan based on the internet and telephone voting for the 2022 municipal elections. Can I get a mover and second to bring on the floor, please? Councillor Deputy Mayor Meadows and Councillor Pira, are there any questions on this? Yes, Deputy Mayor Meadows and then Councillor Anderson.
The only issue I have with this is our area, number one, is poor in the internet and very poor with cell phones. So my concern is dropped calls, dropped ballots and stuff like that. I myself, I'm for the paper version of the polling or the ballots. That's the way we've done it. The reason why we didn't do it the other way was because of the fact we're in such poor shape right across the township. Nothing's changed as far as I'm concerned, and we should just go with the regular balloting.
Okay, Councillor Anderson, and then I'll come around, okay? Diane, did you have your card also up?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I can wait.
Okay, no.
Thank you, Worship. Well, I was going to ask Diane to comment on this because, again, I read the report and Diane and I had a conversation last week regarding this as well. And if I understood correctly, we would still be looking at having some polling stations available during the day of election where there would be a tablet set up for individuals to go and vote. So that way we would make sure that there's connectivity through the municipality that way. And again, I've been a proponent of the paper ballot for a long time, and I think it does have its purpose. We have seen, though, over the last year and a half that internet and telephone is improved greatly for communications, and I think it's something that we certainly need to look at. The other comment that I did make to Diane was that I think we do need to have or be mindful of those who can't get out or don't understand technology. And for the potential that we have done in the past where staff would attend a home. So in this case, a couple staff members would go with a tablet and visit someone either, again, if it's potentially, if we had a nursing home or something like that, but even in somebody who can't get out of the house, who doesn't have the technology, that we make every attempt that we can to have those people vote. And so I think those are things that need to be looked at and put in play. But I see Diane shaking her head yes, up and down that, so if I am correct, that we would still have those voting locations. And I think that would alleviate maybe some of the concerns that the Deputy Mayor has had.
Yes, through the chair to council. We would definitely have some centers set up, and we could actually mimic what was done in 2018 and have some days that we would have at, for instance, St. James Separate School. We're not sure about schools with, a lot of things have changed since COVID, but we could find another spot. Also the Everett Legion, the Lyle Legion, and the Township Municipal Center. And we would have certain times and election workers that would help. With the internet and telephone voting, last time we had close to 76 election workers, and I understand from staff that it was quite a pull to get people to work the election. And I know from the federal election that just happened and talking to people that did recruitment, it was very, very tough to get people out. We also too, yes, we've looked at with the Vianet and Rogers has, been working hastily through the township, and we can address that by having these centers available to people. that A, don't have technology, or B, are not comfortable with it, and we could have election workers to assist.
Okay, Councillor Anderson? Yeah, okay, Councillor Peter, I think you had your card up.
Yeah, thank you. So just my understanding, I spoke with Diane earlier in the week as well, or last week, sorry. And just to be clear, so, you know, when we get a voting card in the mail, it'd say you can call in, you know, there'll be a number, you can call in, you can vote online, or you can come into the municipality, one of these centers, and vote on a tablet in the municipality at whatever center is closest to you. So that's kind of the situation, right?
Yes, through the chair to council, that's correct. So they would have these options on their voter information card, and they are mailed in an envelope with a pin that is conducive to their eligibility for voting.
Thank you. No further questions.
Dan, when you talk about a pin, how does it work? Let's say there's a envelope which goes out the pin. Can anyone find that pin and vote on that pin then? Or is there like a, you know, how the bank accounts now have a new system where it's a two-stage
Yes.
verification?
Yes, through the mayor, yes, there is a two-step authentic verification. Correct, just like or I should say online banking. Yes, correct.
All right. So then who was next? I think definitely I'll come to you. I think it was Councillor Bays, Councillor Hall-Chancey, and then you. Okay.
Through the chair to Diane, I think it's a great idea. We've had our discussion. I just have a couple of questions about what happens with glitches. Like, I know that last time when they tried the telephone voting at the last election, I think up in Springwater or somewhere, they tried it and they had a lot of problems. You know, they were like days. Like, I'm presuming that 4 years later, those, you know, glitches hopefully have been worked out in these kind of systems. But what would happen, for instance, if, say you're on your cell phone and a call is dropped mid vote? Would there be some kind of backup? Would they, if they made the phone call again, you would know that it had or hadn't gone through if they weren't sure? Is that kind of information available?
Yeah, through the mayor to council. Yeah, the clerks are required to do a set of procedures for all methods of voting, and all these have been addressed in the past with various municipalities. So there is a procedure that we follow as staff, and we are able to address those issues once those procedures are established. And I believe the problem before was a third-party broadband issue before, and that everything did eventually come through. And it did take some time, extra time, but it was looked at and audited, and it was fine. So,
Okay.
Okay, Councillor Hall-Chancey.
Thank you, through the chair, directed to Diane. So in regards to this, as Councillor Bays stated that there was a glitch last time, and I remember there was a glitch in Innisfil because they were doing electronic voting as well, and the lines actually completely dropped, like it went blank. So there is the potential, I would assume with this then, that the results would be delayed, much like the federal election that just happened with the mail-in ballots, that there was a 5-day window where they would have a cutoff date, and then they would be reporting up to 5 days later. So is that the case with us as well, if we go this route?
yes. Yeah, so exactly, through the mayor to council, there is a procedure, and we follow that. And again, it's looked at carefully. And I understand Innisfil has passed to do internet telephone voting because they were happy with the audit after of what had happened in that situation. It was like, again, it was a broadband issue with the third party because they lowered their time, and instead of having it opened up especially during as you can imagine, an election, it was just something that was an automatic broadband to lower it at a certain time. But now they've addressed that and they're happy with moving forward with that.
Okay, Councillor Deputy Mayor Meadows, and then Councillor Bays.
Yeah, I like with the telephone and internet. I just see problems with fraud. I really do with voter fraud with these two outlets. That's why a lot of the like electronic ballots are at the office when any electronic balloting is happening. So as far as telephone or internet, I'm totally against it. If you want to have electronic voter boxes in these locations, then I'd be all for it. But the way it is right now, I just see too much electoral fraud going on, and call me old school. I don't know, but I can't. I just can't get my head over this one. So and it doesn't matter to me because I'm not running next election. It's you guys that are running in the next election. So it's totally up to you. But anyway.
Yeah, Dan, go ahead.
Through the Mayor and Council, that's addressed in the Municipal Elections Act, and the voter fraud is taken quite seriously. And usually before a internet telephone voting election, we reach out to the OPP, and we usually are assigned somebody that is versed in this. And if we hear of anything, we definitely send out somebody to look into that. So it's no different than vote by mail, or again, if somebody's going to do that, they're committing voter fraud, and we will definitely look into that.
Yeah, but you know as well as I do, there's no real oversight in voter fraud. Like anybody can commit voter fraud, and there's no oversight to look after it. So
there's
like
problems else. There's problems with paper balloting too. So
absolutely, absolutely,
definitely.
But not as much
from the start to the finish.
Yeah, but it's not as much to the as what can happen with telephone and internet voting. So
You'd
anyway.
be surprised the stories I've heard through the years.
Oh, we've had anyway.
Anyhow, okay, Councillor Bays, and then Deputy Chansey. Oh, you are there, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you. No, sorry.
Waiting
Okay.
after the
Thank you. This is through the chair directed to Diane. So with this, if this is actual go with all these additional voting methods, does that mean that the voting by proxy then would be eliminated?
Yeah, so through the Mayor to Council, yes, definitely. So I looked into that. That was asked by another councillor as well. So in most Ontario elections, the use of e-voting, proxy vote, it eliminates proxy voting by default, and it's not allowed because you're allowed to vote anywhere that you have internet access or telephone access. It eliminates that need for that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Bays.
through the chair to Diane. So does this, I mean, obviously we would still have the pre-voting dates, the early voting, and that wouldn't change. It would be run exactly the same way as this.
That's, yes, through the Mayor to Council, that's correct. So people are snowbirds, and now that things are opening up, they would be able to vote from anywhere they have internet access. And some people don't have tech at home. They may go to a library, they may go to use it at work, they're allowed to do that. So those types of situations are addressed as well.
Councillor Anderson.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. So just touching on that matter. So what would we be looking at for an election window? Like, I know there's election day, but are we allowing voting on internet and telephone like a week, 2 weeks advance, or like every day?
Yes, through the Mayor to Council, that's a great question. Most times it's about 10 days. So they've found that that is a large enough window because it's 365, 7 days a week. And it seems to have increased people voting longer and being able to vote longer, I should say. And so that increases the amount as well as at the end, the percentage goes up.
Okay, so that would answer then the proxy that if you have 10 days to vote, you shouldn't have an issue to vote.
You shouldn't have an issue to vote.
And then I guess to the other point too is if there are a lot of people that do vote, which I think there are quite a few people that do advance polling in our township anyways, but if they utilize this system, that potentially the strain that we've seen within other municipalities on their network might not be that great actually on election day if people were voting 9 days prior.
Correct, yeah. And again, we would work through the vendor to make sure that those type of broadband issues have been addressed. Like I said, everything is done through a third-party vendor. And it's very similar to banking online as well. It goes to an outside server and it's secure that way.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Dion, I think you just answered one of my questions about the server. I was just going to refer where the server was kept and whether it's outside. So it will be at the outside server, and they will update us on election day of the results. Am I right?
Yes. So, yes, at the end of election, when the poll closes, there's a system, a protocol that's followed, and that's done. And then the results can be as quick as maybe half an hour to an hour, depends on how many people have voted.
Okay.
So it's very quick, and that's basically it.
Okay. And just one more question is, I know at last time at the last term of election, there were a lot of people who came in whose names were not right or who had reached the age of voting and they did not receive their card on time. So those people can still come in to the municipal office and get their cards or show their identity and vote at that time, right?
Yes, to council. Yes, they're giving so if they have not received a card, they can come into the office during business hours, and we could probably we would be available probably those 10 days for anybody that needs revisions and weekends, and be able to add them to the voters list with the proper identification.
Okay. And just the last question then, will the for the physical votes, will be keeping that 10-day gap even for the physical vote? Because normally we have just 2 days of physical voting, advance polls.
Yeah, with internet telephone voting, we have a 10-day window compared to, so it's a longer window than it is for advanced voting, because it's basically the vendor overseeing and watching it and making sure everything is running smoothly, and so they can do that.
Yeah, but for the physical vote, will we still have only 2 days for the advance polls? For the advance polls?
Oh, physical? What do you mean? Like, no, there would be just the internet telephone voting. There wouldn't be, and that would be all of election day, October 24th as well. So, like I said, it would be all by tablet or laptop, or we would we would lease tablets to the township, and there's so many different municipalities that are doing internet telephone voting that we would probably get a reduced rate.
Yeah, but people can still come in and vote at the municipal office, right?
Yes, they can, but they'd be using a tablet.
That's right. Yeah. So they'll be using, so for the advance days, we'll be having a 10-day advance even for the people coming to the municipal office, or will we just having 2 days advance for the people coming to the office?
No, we would have 10 days. We would have 10 days. So during those 10 days, I would take whoever would like to come in and vote during that whole time and assist them. And
okay, I was just consistent 2 days. All right.
It's longer than.
All right. So any other question before I call the question? Councillor Anderson?
Yeah, just one, and I guess I'm just wondering how this would work. Last election, and I think in the previous election too, we had a candidate that dropped out, and unfortunately, because of the paper ballots, they had already been printed, that person got several votes in both elections. So I'm assuming the ballot can be changed up until the day of voting.
That's a great question through the mayor to council. No, that the same procedure is followed. It's through the Municipal Elections Act. So there is a cutoff date that if you have not pulled your name from that ballot, then you are on that ballot. And it does happen from time to time, but we just, there's not much we can do about it. But from experience, that those people seem to get the word out themselves and their family and friends that they are no longer running, and they usually get, you're right, they may get a few votes, but not enough to really do anything from what I've seen in past elections.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so any other questions, Council, before I call the vote? So all in favor of the recommendation? All right, so it's carried. All right, the next
Yeah.
item on the agenda is the